Hello, everyone. This is Ken Quigley from Keystroke. Thanks for joining us. Today is our reseller webinar. We've got a few products to cover. As you guys know from the invite, we'll be covering Act4Outlook version 7. Lots of new features to cover. That'll be our lead off hitter, followed by Link2Events, which is kind of a relaunch. It's a significant rewrite of the original program, and the debut of QuickMeets. I'll be covering the last two topics. Lubs is going to be covering the first one, Act4Outlook, and as mentioned, this event will be recorded. Okay, so the first thing is to make Michael the presenter. There you go, Michael.
Okay.
Take it away.
Make sure we got the right screen on here.
Now, for those that aren't familiar, I have written a blog under keystroke/blog where you can actually see, I think it's 3 from the top. It's called Act4Outlook version 7 is almost here, and it's worth the wait. And it covers a lot of the new features, describes a lot of the new features that we'll be demoing today. Okay, so with that, over to you, Lebs.
Thanks, Ken. So, as Ken mentioned, we're going to go over Act4Outlook version 7 today. So it's going to be basically an overview of what it pertains, and I'll especially sort of point out the new features that we brought into the program and sort of point those out to everybody, so to make sure that we're all aware of what it can do. So it's a really powerful tool and very useful and reliable, which is the most important part. Okay. So once you have it installed, you're going to see it in Outlook. You'll see the same icons up at the top here. We've added a new one called Sync Settings, and we'll get into that in a little bit here. I want to show you what that is in a little bit. First, we'll just go through the general Act4Outlook settings. A lot of this is very similar to what it was before, a little different look. So the first part is the same. You put in your browse to your database, put in your username, password, log in, make sure that's all good to go. Next part, history recording. A couple things we've added here. So the history type, nothing's really changed there. Okay, you can still make your default whatever you want it to be there. Much different options. Your history type, we've modified this to now allow you to choose what type you want. So by default, it's going to be email sent. Okay, but if you want something different for whatever reason, you have all your history types in your database that you're connected to choose from. All right. Below here, a couple of these have been in here for a while. If you don't want to attach emails to Act users, you leave that unchecked. Most people do that. If somebody wants to make all their emails private, they will check that box. This one's important here, and I'm not sure if many people know about this one, this third one here. It's been in there for a couple of versions, but it's very important. So attach all sent messages, even if they're not sent from this machine. So what does that exactly mean? Okay, so I'm using this machine here. So my laptop, I'm emailing people throughout the day, but maybe at night, either my laptop stays in the office, or if I have a home office, it stays in my home office, and maybe I'm traveling somewhere, or I just have my iPad or iPhone or whatever mobile device I may have, and I'm shooting emails out to people throughout the evening or over the weekend or something. I want those emails to be recorded back to Act. Okay, well, if I didn't have this checked, it wouldn't happen. They would get the emails and they wouldn't get recorded. By having this checked, those emails now, the next time I come into Outlook, it's going to look in the sent folder, look for those emails that were sent from another device, and then attach them accordingly to those contacts within the Act database. Okay. Change icon.
Before you go ahead,
yeah.
You want to mention one of the warnings about that and having it configured on multiple machines?
Yes, great point. So if let's say you had a laptop and a desktop, or maybe a laptop and something in the cloud or something, or just basically you're using multiple machines in some form or fashion, you really don't want to have this button checked on all the machines, because then you're going to get duplicate emails, because it's going to be attaching from this machine, and then on the other machine it's going to say, oh, you're sending emails from another machine, I'm attaching it there too as well. So when you have multiple machines, you really only need to have this installed on one computer, because once you have this checked, and then it'll automatically attach those records, those emails that you sent from the other machine. Obviously, as long as it's the same email account. If you have different email accounts, it's going to be something different. Okay.
And we've actually built in a warning now, so every time you enable that, a little pop-up message will say this should only be configured on one machine.
Nice. Thanks, Ken. All right, the next one here, we have change icon. So let's put this little green checkbox if you see this first email here. So whenever something's been attached successfully, you'll have a little green checkbox. So as you scan your inbox and or sent box, you can see things that were attached successfully. This is also good for troubleshooting. If you ever need to troubleshoot a client and look and they're saying it's not attached, you can take a look quickly through their folders to see that. We've moved the incoming checkbox. It used to have its own tab, sort of all stranded all by itself. So we just put it here just to keep things, a little tighter. So this checkbox here for automatically attaching any incoming emails. So once again, as emails come into your inbox, it's looking for that email address in any Act email field. If it finds it, it records it to that particular contact. Okay. Next down here, history linking. First two things there, they've been in there for a couple versions now. If you check those, it's going to link emails to any of the contacts associated company, and also any opportunities linked to that contact as well. Okay, if you have those checked. This last checkbox, we just added this one. This one's really good. When sending an email, it's going to prompt to create a contact if it's not found in the database. So you're sending a new email. The email address you're sending to is not in Act. You'll get a little pop-up message that says either skip, as in skip, don't attach it, or create new record, or you can attach it to somebody else. For example, maybe you're sending it to somebody you know, but they have a different email address. You don't feel like adding it to Act, but you want to record it to Act to that particular record. So you're going to have a few options there when sending that email with that pop-up button that comes up. Finally here, the excluded Outlook accounts. This has been in there for, I think, almost all the versions, if I'm not mistaken. Ignore automatic history recording for these accounts. Now, this only really comes into play if you have multiple email accounts within your Outlook. Right now, I only have just one demo email that we use, so it doesn't really come into play. But if you monitor multiple emails, maybe your own work email, and maybe you have like a general support or service or info email or a personal email, and you don't want those emails getting recorded to Act, you just check the box by their account, and then those emails that you send from that account will not get recorded into Act. Okay. All right, so let's move along to exclusions. So this allows us to exclude domains when sending emails. So if we're sending emails and we don't want to record to specific domains, in this case, I've added AOL and apple.com as examples. But another case scenario would be people in your own company. Now, because all those people might not be Act users, so you can't just use that Act checkbox where it says don't attach to Act users. So you may have, a company of 50 and maybe only 10 are Act users. So the rest would be at the same domain. Anytime you send an email to those people, you don't want that to get recorded in Act necessarily. So you can add them here add that domain here, and then anytime it gets sent to those domains, it gets ignored. Okay. One thing to make a note of here, we actually made a note here, right here, where it says note, changes to settings in this area require a restart of Outlook to take effect. So obviously the first time you set it up, you're going to need to shut down, once you set up your stuff, shut down Outlook, reopen it to make sure everything's working properly. Similarly, if you come in here and, if I have it set up like this, and then I come in here and I'm changing, I want this to be subject, body, and attachments instead, or, subject only, or whatever the case may be. I need to save and close Outlook as well, and then open it back up before those changes take effect. Okay, very important there. A lot of people, what happens is they make the changes here to history type, they don't close Outlook, they're doing tests, and they're like, oh, it's not recording for some reason. It's because they haven't shut down Outlook and reopened it. Okay, so always make sure any kind of changes you make, not only here, but any of the other settings we're going to go into, always shut down Outlook and then restart it before making those, or before testing it to make sure everything works. Okay. And we'll leave the questions. I'm going to go over a couple more settings, and then we'll open the floor for some questions as well. Okay. And once again, we send you another reminder. Once you close that, please restart Outlook to apply the changes. So we want to make sure that people, people understand that that's the case here. So next thing I'm going to go into is Act database settings. This first tab here, contact field mapping. this is where we can map the Act fields to Outlook. So when we're sending contacts back and forth between the two, this is the mapping that we're going to apply. Okay, so we have the Outlook field on the left and the Act field on the right. We can duplicate check on a field if we like, so that if it comes into there, we can say, okay, oh, it's already in there. You know, if it's an email field, for example, we can use that as the duplicate check field so that it merges that contact. And then as far as duplicate checking, when it's found, what 3 options: do not overwrite, overwrite if the Act field is blank, or overwrite Act fields. So the next one, activity settings. You can set a default activity type. So this is if you're going to, when you get an email, you have the ability to create an create an activity from the email. Okay, so I believe in the previous versions, by default, it was call, and you can never change the default. It was always call. You could change it once you created it, but the default was always called. But if you want that default instead to be a meeting, for example, or maybe one of your custom activity types, those will show up here in this activity type dropdown. And then that will be the default then when you do right click, create activity from an email. Okay, so save you time instead of having to click it every time. Second option here, this has been here for a while, automatically show the create activity window when items are added to the calendar. This ability, so if they, somebody sends you an invite, an Outlook appointment invite, meeting invite, what have you, you click accept. It obviously sends an email back to them that you accepted it. What I'll also do then is open up a create activity window for you then to create the activity right within Act. So that by accepting it, it puts it in Outlook as it always does, but then that create activity window pops up and allows you then to create the activity in Act as well. So now it's going to be in both places if you have that check there. This is a new one we've just added. This is really nice. I was one that actually requested this one because I really like this. Always attach email to activity. So when you do the create activity from email, if you want that activity, if you want that email to be attached, because maybe they've sent you an attachment in that email that's important that you need to refer back to on that meeting you're going to have next week with them. So then you want to check that, so then that email gets attached to the actual activity as well. It'll be in the details tab of the activity in Act in the attachment link there. Okay, if you have that checked. History settings. This is for the incoming emails as far as how you want them to be labeled within the history. The default is email auto attached. Once again, you have the option to choose whatever one you want as far as that. So that's for incoming ones. Okay. And then finally on here, we have contact exclusion settings. So on that first setting, we had the domains. This is something a little different. This is going by Act fields. So you can set up an exclusion based upon an Act field. For example, I just set a test one up here. If last result equals do not email, if the contact record equals that, when you send that person an email, it's not going to record to their history. Okay. Another case example may be, ID status equals employee. Anytime you email another employee, those aren't getting recorded. Those are a couple examples of how to use that.
Or city equals Chicago, because who needs to record communications? People from Chicago, right, Steve?
Come on, leave Steve alone.
Okay.
All right. So once again, you save your changes, and if you need to make any, you exit out of Outlook, open it back up to see those changes if you need to do anything there. Okay. So in the final settings here, and this is something we've added to version 7. This is really great now. Sync settings. We've added the ability to synchronize activities and contacts. So prior, we had the ability to send data to Outlook and or to Act.
Manually, yeah.
Manually, basically. Yeah, you would go in the Act record, you would go to the context menu, and we still have it there. We haven't changed it. That's still there as well. Create contacts in Outlook. It was sort of a one-way push. Just, okay, here you go. That's it. We're now with more of an actual sync, okay, between the two. So we have activity sync here. To enable it, you would check that. And then you could say do not synchronize updates to activities that have been synced already. So if something's already been synced and there's nothing been updated to it, it doesn't send it again. Okay. Then you set your sync direction, Outlook to Act or Act to Outlook. Okay. We don't support two-way sync. No two-way sync. We're not going to get in that mess. And then you set your intervals, so anywhere from 5 minutes all the way up to 24 hours. And then as far as your activity range, how far back you want to go as far as past activities and how far into the future you want to go with your future activities? Okay. And
So
then on the
just to
sorry,
stop you here, the
yeah,
important thing to be talking to your customers about is determine which, like how they're entering either contacts or activities into their database or into Outlook. There's a lot of people will share Outlook calendars, things like that. For those kinds of people, then from Outlook to Act is really important. But you'll get a lot of people whose primary data entry point for contacts is always going to be Act. In that case, the contacts going from Act to Outlook is going to make more sense. It's really going to be individual. You're not limited in terms of transferring one way or the other. You're just determining which way is the automated way. Okay, so one way is going to work on a schedule as an interval, as you can see. The other way you would have to do manual. Like on a calendar, the way that we had before, you can select one or more activities, right click in Outlook and say send to Act. Similarly with Act, you can do send to Outlook, but those are manual. So those would be the exceptions, and then you would automate the more popular direction. Sorry, I just want to say that. Go ahead, Lebs. Back to you.
no, great, Ken. Yeah, this gives you the flexibility because everybody uses their data differently. So this gives you the flexibility of if they're entering an Act, you can do it one way. If they enter stuff in Outlook, you can do it that way. So that's the nice thing about it. You can go either way. Okay, so that was the activity sync. Now we have the contact sync. Very similar here. Enable checkbox here, an option to not synchronize updates. What direction do you want to go? Your interval. And then now what's also nice here is because we realize some people have large databases when they may not want to sync the whole database to Outlook. So you have the ability to say, okay, let me just do a particular group into Outlook instead of sending all contacts. Okay.
Obviously inspired by Handheld Contact, being able to limit what comes over.
Yep, absolutely. And then below there, we have the ability to clear last sync date, because basically all it does is it syncs things that have been edited since your last sync. So it's only going to send records that have been edited. So if you start out right, like if I start out right now with today and I try to do a sync, nothing's going to get sent because nothing's been edited in the last 5 seconds. Okay. So I want to clear the last sync date so that everything comes over sort of as whole. The whole database would come over, or whatever, the whole group if I only did a group. Okay. So you want to do that. If you ever want to sort of do like a send all basically of your records, you want to clear the last sync date.
Okay, Lubs. Shannon
Yeah.
just asked a question. If you send over an activity manually and then you in either direction, and then your automated sync pushes that activity over again, will it create a duplicate? And the answer is no.
Yes.
The way that Austin has configured this, it creates a GUID for each activity, so it can't create that duplicate. Okay, back to you.
Okay. Lastly, the last tab here is clear Outlook data. So if maybe you've done a sync and you want to clear things up because you didn't do the right thing, you clear things out. Another thing you could do here is, and maybe you're just starting this, you can start from scratch and just sort of clear out your Outlook contacts. Now, with that being said, there may be contacts in your Outlook contact section that you're not sure if they're an Act or not. So what you can do is you can create a subfolder in Outlook, okay, of contacts, move everything there, and then just blank out your main, because this only clears out your main contact folder. It does not clear any of the subfolders of your contacts. So what you do is you create a subfolder, just put everything in there temporarily in case you miss something, in case there's something in there that's not an Act, and you can go through that after the fact, okay? But that allows you to basically just to sort of clear everything out, sort of almost like starting from scratch, and then send everything from Act to Outlook, okay? Now, on the flip side of things, what you could do, let's say somebody didn't have an Act database yet, and they kept everything in Outlook. They have years and years of contacts in Outlook, and they want to create an Act database from that. What you can do is set up the contact sync and set up Outlook to Act, send everything there, and now you have that blank database. It now created an Act database because you sent everything from Outlook to Act, and it is all their Outlook data now in Act. Okay, so that's one way to get around that if people are starting fresh with Act, but they have all that data in Outlook. Okay.
And just for people's reference, the clear Outlook data was my idea because a lot of people they have a bit of a mess in their calendar or their contacts, and they can basically clear the deck, start from scratch, and push all their Act data over. But obviously, when I mentioned the contact GUID and the activity GUID, those aren't going to exist on pre-existing Outlook activities or contacts. Those only exist once they're synced. So to avoid creating a mess and a lot of duplicates, it's better just to kind of clear the address book or the calendar and then push everything on over, and it will be clean and without duplicates. Back to you, Lubs.
Okay. All right, so we're going to save that. Okay. I didn't really change any settings there, so that's why I'm not going to close Outlook, open it back up just for time's sake. So I'm just going to show you how the sync works here. So if we look here in my Outlook, they call it the people, the contacts, basically, there's nobody in here right now. Okay. And I created these, like I said, I created this folder here, and I moved everybody in there that I had in there. Okay. That's what I mean by subfolders. All right. So there's nobody there in contacts. And I'll just do a manual sync for this. So I'm going to go in here, contact sync now. So there's 208 records in my Act. It's going to take about maybe 5 seconds or so. Once again, depending on how many contacts you have in your database and or group that you're syncing, obviously the time will vary based upon that stuff. So, but 208 records get synchronized pretty quickly here. Here we go. Now if we go to my people. Okay. Actually, I only had 204. Sorry about that. And so there's all my contacts that are in Outlook here. Okay. Let's just pick one out here. We'll go James Finley. So he has a job title of manager. Let's just look him up here in the Act. Just change his title real quick. Let's save Vice President, save it. Go back to Outlook. Let's do another sync. And I'm only doing manual sync here just for the sake of time. Obviously, you can have this enabled auto sync check, and it's going to sync in your intervals. So.
And that every 5 minutes actually runs with little or no overhead. You won't notice that in using your Act, or your Outlook, I should say.
And there's his new job title over here, Executive Vice President. Okay. So we sort of come to the end of the time. I know Ken needs some time for his stuff, so I just want to open the floor to any questions that you guys might have about this software.
If we can listen to you a bit longer, then it's less time of Ken, right? Oh, sorry. Did I say that out loud? Oh,
you
sorry.
did. You gave voice to thought. We talked about that. Okay, we've answered a few questions in the chat section, so we haven't had, okay. Very good. Louise has asked, will V7 be a purchase upgrade? This is a $40 product, so like all the previous versions, there's going to be no upgrade pricing. It's replacement pricing, so they'll have to pay the full price. We've invested pretty heavily in this. This has been weeks of full-time updates. We've added a lot of features, so it's not like a compatibility upgrade where people, in order to use it, they have to get it. Let's say they've upgraded the V24. This is optional, but we think that the feature difference is going to be a real driver for demand. So yeah, we won't be having, actually, I don't think we've ever had upgrade pricing for Act4Outlook. Any other questions? No, stop that.
God bless the USA.
Oh my goodness. Okay. Okay, do you want to give me back screen control?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. For those that are curious, I made the mistake of making a bet on Cleveland versus Toronto playoffs, and I lost, and I had to wear that hat for 4 straight staff meetings, so he hasn't let me live that down since. Okay, so let's jump into things. Thank you very much, Lubs. Great coverage of Act4Outlook. Just a quick reference here. If you go to our blog section, scroll down, you'll get most of the talking points here that he covered today, and you can kind of go through. So, there isn't any great urgency to take any kind of notes, and I'll have the same kind of thing. I'm going to be talking about Link2Events now, and then scroll down, we have QuickMeets. So all the notes here will be available in this blog. Okay, so let's go over to Link2Events. So you guys responded. You guys all responded to Link2Events. You all signed up with the page that I published with it. So this obviously works. And but I want to kind of explain not only what the product is, but what it is now, some of the changes that we've made. So first of all, what is Link2Events? Link2Events is the second product that we made in the Linktivity family. Okay, and it came right after Link2Calendar. And if you want to learn more about it, you can go to linktivity.net or here, or you can click on products, scroll down, click on Linktivity products, and then you'll see Link2Events over here. Okay, so what is this product good for? Okay, any financial professionals, wealth managers, financial planners, those kind of things, the main source of lead generation for them is lunch and learns, where they're introduced to a company, they host these lunch and learns. This is a great tool for them where they can organize these events very efficiently. Any professional service business that wants to host an educational webinar, and basically any business that's doing a product launch, kind of like what we're doing today, where you want to host an educational webinar and announce the debut of a new product. Okay, so what does it do? Well, back here. So I'm going to click in here. Oh, that's the public one. Let's look at the private one. Okay, so here's the event, and I'll start right from the general tab. Okay, so the first thing that it does is it creates an activity. Now, previously you would create the activity in Link2Events, and then it would instantly create that corresponding activity in Act. Well, now we've added a new feature where you can create an event and pick from an existing activity in Act. Now, why is that useful? Well, we had a lot of requests for integration with Zoom or GoToMeeting, those kinds of webinar services. And those things, what you would do is you would create an activity using their services, and they would always generate like an ICS, an Outlook invite. As you've just seen, Act4Outlook creates that activity with all of that information in Act. So now you've got an Act activity with the location information, which is the join link, a lot of the event details already in there, the date, the time, and the duration, okay? Well, now all of this information can be pulled over from that activity, including the details and the event location, which is in this case the join link. So that saves us, you know, the headache of trying to import in directly from those services, because every time there's one or two services, there'll be more. This way, anything that creates an ICS, which in turn creates an Act activity, can be picked with Link2Events and imported in immediately, okay? Now, once you've got all of this set up, we have added tremendous formatting features. So now that you've got a full toolbar here, you can add graphics, you can even add a video. Okay, so you can create an embedded video, add that in. Here's the clear formatting. You can see that I've formatted this. I've added in a nice GIF to illustrate it further. I can put in an image and the rest of the information. Now here, you're going to see that I've got my calendar link. Why is that useful? Well, let's take a look at the preview, which, oh, this has already happened here. So let me go back. I'll go to the preview of the next one here. Oops, wrong one. I learned a lesson not to name them too similarly. Okay, so let's go to preview. Okay, so you see here, this is what the general event will look like. Okay, I haven't done too much formatting on this, but now if I go here, I can say, let me just get my calendar link here. Now we have transitioned this into a team event, which I'll get into a little bit later. Okay, but I'm just going to go to About Us and grab my calendar link. And I didn't want to transition my settings over to team just yet because I didn't want them to potentially disrupt this event. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say here, custom link, and I'm going to put in my link to calendar thing, and I'm going to click on OK. Now, why is this useful? Well, now when I click on sign up, okay, hold on, is it still waiting? Here we go. Oh, I haven't clicked on there. Okay, it actually puts in a little link to calendar bar right here at the bottom. So again, along the theme, if you've got people, financial planners, those kinds of people that are using this as a lead generation event, not only can they publish the event, but they can actually harvest individual one-to-one meetings with the sign up page. Okay, now let me show you some of the other things that we've done. So one of the other things we've done, we got the standard for a lot of these things, with the exception of the MC editor, was here before. But one of the things that we got asked is, please, we want to customize, we want to add more fields to the sign up form, because previously we made it very, very limited. It was basically full name, email, and that was it. Well, if it's a lead generation tool and you're getting new contacts, you want to be able to give them the option of adding in as much information as possible, because that new contact will be added instantly into the database. Okay, so what we've done is we've basically given you all these fields, and by default, all but the first two are disabled, and you can just add very quickly any one of these. And if you need to determine here, these ones are required, I can say, you know what, I really don't need the company one. I can make that one not required. Okay, and then if I go back to the preview, I can see each one of these things are asterisks, and now the company doesn't have an asterisk. That's how fast it is. Okay, now the emails. What I've done is we've created a separate tab here for this, and you can set the send reminder before event for 2 hours. Okay, and then you've got this new toolbar here that you can set up and format the webinar reminder. Here's where I put in the join link so that everyone gets it. And then what I can do, because this is a lead generation tool, right? So we click on enable, and we can set up where we can put in recording information, additional events, things like that, and it could follow up immediately after based on a set number of hours. Okay. Now, one of the things that we've added with Team, okay, we've added a new tier on the Team edition, is the ability to create drip campaigns. So what you can do is you can say, let's create a drip email here, add it, and I will do it. I'll send this out, 1 day before the event. And then I'm going to set another one, and then 1 day after event. And I can create an unlimited number of drips that are part of this campaign and dramatically enhance the effectiveness and the communication that I have with all those that are signing up. Okay. And let's go to templates. Now the templates is, we ported over a lot from Link to Forms because people were really requesting a lot more design features. So we got the default one here, and then we've got the compact design. The compact design would be really useful. Let's say that you were going to do a sign up form and you wanted to do it in Contact Us, or not Contact Us particularly, but you wanted to do it in one column here. Okay, so you'd use the compact design, and that way by default there wouldn't be field labels; those would be field hints inside the fields, and it's meant to be a compact design, so they've kind of compressed it all to make it very, very conservative on the space that you use. And if it's a narrow column like this, it's a really, really good design choice. Okay. But by default, we've got this one, which is a bit more like this layout, where you get the fields on top of it. It's meant to have multiple columns. So in this case, you can separate here and here, have 50% this, 50% that, full email, full width, that kind of thing. Okay. Now, what we've also added, similar to Link to Forms, is the ability to customize this to the nth degree. So you can really go in and say, I want to customize this. You can have themes here, okay? You can also customize here, like the active color. Let's say that I wanted to have the button fit in with the theme of where I'm posting it. Okay, I can set this up and click on over here. Okay, and now the preview. Okay, the button you can see here. Now when I brush across this, the active color is FE5000, which is the ACT color. It may seem familiar. It's the exact color of the ACT orange. Okay, whereas this color, the inactive one, is our corporate color, which is actually F1864. 1864. Okay, which is not an interesting detail. Okay, so but this is where you can change the borders. Like let's say I wanted to have background color, I can say form width, border width. So let's actually go here, border color. I could change the fonts, go back to preview. Okay, I've got a lot of customizations that I can implement. Fonts, you name it, form color, background color, text color, field background color, everything, okay? And that's how quickly I can do that. So all these design features are new to Link2Events, okay? How long to keep the submissions? Well, let's actually see what we've got now, okay? Because I'm gonna go back here. You can now see that we've got a counter here for how many people have signed up for the event. Okay, so we've got 28 people here that have signed up for this and 8 people that have signed up for this. This is brand new, literally today, where you get that submission count. Okay, here's where you get the drip emails. I showed you that from the drop-down list. You can go in here, and I just put in tests, but you've got fields that you merge fields that you can put in, unsubscribe. The unsubscribe is really important because people can actually unsubscribe from the drip campaign and they won't get any more links as part of it. Okay, so you're not irritating people as part of this event organization or promotion. Okay, now here's where you could set these. You can create a template and then say duplicate it over and over and over again and make small modifications as you're counting down towards an event or after an event. And then here's something new that I really like is you've got all the submissions. So you can go online and see every single person that has signed up. And this is a global submission counter. So it's going to show you all the events that you've got active. So because of that, you can select, let's say today, and see exactly the people that just signed up for today's event. Okay. And then you can see here that there's a drip scheduled for it. And then the last email sent here will actually show you a breakdown of all the different activities that went out with this. Okay. Now, let's say that you've got some joker, I don't know, that answers to Lubs, and he likes to sign up virtually every single event with John Olshoel or LeBron James. He really, really thinks he's far funnier than he really is. And what you can do in that event, if you're unfortunate enough to have people like that in your life, is that you can see them and identify them and then delete them. Okay, and then that will remove that from your event attendance. Now, when you delete them, here's Lubs right now. When you delete them, it's going to prompt you. Do you also want to remove the attendance from because each time that someone signs up, they're added to the group and they're linked to the activity, okay, that is in ACT, whether it Link2Events created activity or it was linked to it. So this gives you the option to remove it, and it will automatically remove it from this registration list, and it will remove it from the activity. Because it's using the API, that action is instant. Well, instant is the API, and once this is done, then they'll be removed, and that change to ACT is instantaneous. Okay, and that is basically it that I wanted to cover today. The one big thing that we've got with Teams, okay, is Team Edition. We haven't fully implemented the Team Edition in terms of every single feature, but let me show you what it's going to have here. Okay, so I'm going to click on this. There's going to be 2 features that are added over the next 2 weeks. Okay, one is going to feature a new program called Link to Shrink. Now, our program coordinator just loves that name, Link to Shrink. So what is it? Anyone that's ever used a feature like bit.ly.com, knows that the if here's the activity link. This is really long. If you tried to paste this into Facebook, paste it into LinkedIn, it would automatically remove it. Okay, so what's going to happen is every team subscriber is going to have additional option where they can generate a short link for this. And basically it's going to be link the number 2 dot, and it will be either FM, RED, FM for forward me, RED for redirect, or SH for shrink, okay? And then / whatever the name of the event is, or some alphanumeric string, okay? That will be a lot shorter, and it will be included free of charge with any of the team edition products. You can see this is very long. Calendar links are the same way. Forms can be very long. So all of these team features will have this in the next 2 weeks. The other thing, and this is going to be really popular and probably the biggest driver for people upgrading from the from the standard tier to the team tier, is going to be the PayPal feature, because a lot of people will advertise these kinds of events. Educational marketing thing, people wouldn't think to charge for them. But if this is something that is based on subscription, okay, where people are paying for to be a member of a club, okay, and or they want to have they want to charge per event, then the team edition will allow you to actually collect pay. Okay, so when people sign up, it will run through a quick PayPal checkout. They do not need a PayPal account. It will process credit cards, and then it will collect it. And then over here will be a list of payments. Okay, so the people that registered and all the people that checked out. So if you've got someone that's holding public events, that's how they make their living, that's how they make their money, then this is something that for literally an extra $96 a year, because this is 120, so for an extra $96 a year, it could handle the payment processing of every single one of their events. Okay, most of the services that are similar to that cost many times that. The base feature costs 120. Okay, think of all, and let me just kind of give you a quick sense of why this is such a huge value. So let me just go here. Let me go over to the blog. Okay, because a lot of people will say, okay, this is cool, but why would I pay for it? Okay, it saves me a little bit of time, but why would I pay for it? Well, let me just show you. I'm right now using GoToMeeting, okay? We also have a GoToWebinar account. The difference between those two services in terms of features are the webinar services posts a sign-up page, like Link2Events. It processes all registrants, like Link2Events, okay? It gives you the list, like Link2Events. It pretty much does everything. And then what it will do is when they sign up, it will send out the join link, okay? The meeting events doesn't have that feature. It basically has a join link, so you never really know how many people are going to show up. So let's take a look at the, why you would want to use the meeting service, whether it's Zoom or GoToMeeting or Adobe or anything like that. So here you got GoToMeeting, okay, ranging from 16 to 25 for the professional service and $21 to $26 a month for the business class. Now let's take a look at the webinar service. And you've got $64 to $79, and you've got $129 to $159, okay? And so on and so forth, the higher you go, okay? There's not much of a difference. I've got 250 to 500 participants. The service that I've got with mine includes 250 participants for the GoToMeeting, which is gonna be more than enough for most people, okay? So I'm paying $16 to $20 for this. I'm adding $10, okay, so I'm in 26, 30 bucks a range, okay, I'm getting $64 to $79 worth of service, plus, and this is key, I'm getting full integration with Act, because that webinar service, whether it's through Zoom or GoToMeeting, has no integration with Act. So everyone that signs up, it's got to be manually added to Act. It has to be manually added to a group for follow-ups, has to be manually linked to the events. So that's really, really key. And Link2Events is the only feature of its kind that I've ever come across that helps people organize these kinds of events, sends out the reminders automatically, sends out the drip campaigns, can even collect money, provides full formatting of the sign up pages, everything. And like I said, you've got this one graphic. Now we've got the ability to add not just graphics, but even videos. Okay, so you click on here, you can add in the embedded HTML and it will play a video from YouTube, Vimeo, whichever. Okay, so you've got all kinds of formatting features that never existed before. So let me just pause quickly and see if there's any questions. Oh, okay. So this is a huge improvement over the previous version because a lot of people they like the idea of it, but they really wanted to map additional fields. They wanted to have additional formatting features. They wanted to have the tracking. They wanted to have, you know, a quick look online. You could basically check from your phone to see how many people and which people have signed up for the event. Okay. And that is Link2Events. And as I said, that was the second feature in our Linktivity products. And I don't want to, you know, get too carried away with this because I'm pretty stoked about the Linktivity product suite. I will tell you this, all my salespeople say the same thing. If we had to sell Act without this Linktivity suite or without a small group of our add-ons, it would be pretty hard. Okay, all of our marketing is around creating, you know, lead generation, lead capture, lead conversion, everything being automated going straight into Act. Okay, when you can position Act as the center of all of this activity, whether it's quotes, whether it's forms, whether it's surveys. Surveys is one of those features with Link to Forms that people don't even really realize that you're saving hundreds of dollars a month, or sorry, a year in SurveyMonkey that, you know, is largely covered with Link to Forms. Okay, so you can send out forms and harvest feedback from your customers, all of that kind of thing, and get graphical survey results, KPIs, everything. Anyway, all of these things make Act seem really, really cool in ways that it didn't previously, and it makes it a lot easier to sell when you can show people how easy it is to integrate into their website, into their social media, things like that. And, you know, the same applies obviously with Link2Events and the pages, and we borrowed a lot of the tech from the programming from Link to Forms and ported it over to Link2Events. So anyway, that's what we're really excited about. You ask about any of my salespeople, they always say they lead with this first, the quoting, everything, and it's become the thin edge of the wedge behind all of our deals. Okay, so with that, let's talk about a feature that has a smaller market, admittedly, okay, and this is something that we created largely for internal use because I would have to run a number of meetings every single week, recurring meetings, sales meetings on Monday. We had dev meetings on Tuesdays, also support meetings, all hands meeting on Wednesday, AR meetings on Thursdays, dev meetings again on Friday, and we had other sort of meetings. And those are just the internal ones, okay? We also had external ones with SwiftPage relating to projects, training events, things like that. So what I had was I would typically have 10 to 15 Word documents open at all times on my desktop from past meetings, current meetings, as I was updating the minutes and the agendas and things like that. And it became an unholy mess. I had no real way of efficiently retrieving them, efficiently managing who was in attendance, anything. So we created a new product called QuickMeets, and we wanted to do it based on the technology of quick tasks. And so we created this product called QuickMeets. And just to quickly show you, this is not just a meeting organizer. Here's where I've created a tab or a cabinet, okay, where I organize all my events. So you can see here, I've got the default one, I've got accounts receivable, BPAC, just had that one yesterday, board meeting, development meetings, okay, handheld contact marketing, blah, blah, blah. Okay, so if I was to say, let's go to the staff meetings, here's all the staff meetings. So all my staff meetings are organized. Okay, they're all organized in one place, organized in a SQL database. And what I can do is I can create a meeting, okay, and I can create all the details here. Bring this over. I can create all the details here. And here's each one of the sections. Okay, so I set the time, I set the date, I set the time, I set the duration, priority, the alarm. This is what would be set off in Act. Here is the presenter, and here is the location, and here's all the topics. Okay, and I can add them as I go. Okay, but I can have like old business, new business, and organize them all within this. Okay, and each time that I go through this section, so I can click on here, and I can say, let's create a follow-up. Okay, assign it to someone here. And in case you're wondering, of course this integrates with Act. So that list that you just saw is pulled in from the user list of Act, and it connects via the SDK or the API. So if you're hosted, you can have this as well. You can set a due date, you can set up all the follow-ups, and you can actually do multi-selects, and it will create a different activity, duplicate the activity for each and every person that you select. Okay, just so you can get that that accountability after an event, because there's always going to be deliverables after each section. Okay, now I'm going to go through all of this. If I want to invite people, I can click here, and here's my user list. It will also remember external people that I've invited in meetings. You can see Brian Mocha, Glenn, Haley, Jeff McDonald's. These are people that have been involved in recent meetings, and I can send them on over. Now, why is this useful? Well, anyone that's on this list that's part of the invitee list, okay, they're going to be listed as attendees. They're also going to be available for scheduling follow-ups. They're also going to be available for presenters. Now, for those people that are not in that list, I can click here, that little magnifying glass, and up here it will go search existing contacts, and I would just basically type in their last name and click here. And what it will do, I'm connected via the API. It will search the database, and it will come back with all the hits here. Okay, I'm not going to do that today, but what's really cool is if you know that you've got a business card and someone you need to invite to a meeting is not in your database, you can actually click right here and create them on the fly. Okay, add them here to the meeting, and they will automatically be added to Act. Okay, so you've got that quick little efficiency where they can be added to the attendees and then involved in any of the kind of organization on that. Okay, so we got all of this. We can move any of these items, so you can add the different sections. You can move them up and down to organize them, based on the sequence of the topics. But we've got all of that. Now let's close here. We've created this. Now let's see what options we've got. We can send this to Act. So this will then go directly to Act, either via the API or the SDK, and create that corresponding activity and link all of those people because you're pulling them from Act. Okay, you can clear the meeting. Okay, you can delete the meeting. Now, what's this sync linktivity? One of the things that I was mentioning in my Link2Events presentation is I talked about the advantage of the team feature, whether it's Link2Events team, Link2Calendar team, Link2Forums team, Link2Quotes team. One of the other advantages is you get a free subscription for what's called Link2Task or Link2Meets. What is that? Basically, what it will allow you to do is install this program maybe at home, at the office, on a desktop, on a laptop, and allow you to sync all of your information through our Linktivity servers so that you've got up-to-date information on each. Now, why is that useful? Well, for me, I start each day very, very early. Okay, so I'm typically at my desk between 4:30 and 5:30, and I will be working on my agenda for that day's meetings, and I'll be typing them all in here. And when I'm done, I'll click Save, and I'll click Sync, and this activity with all the details will come on over. Okay, and I'll have that waiting for me in the office when I come in and I click Sync. Okay, so now let's say that I wanted to create a new meeting. Okay, I can right-click, I can say Clone Meeting, Edit Meeting, Clear Meeting, Delete Meeting. I can also say Send Outlook Invite, and I can send an Outlook invite to someone. Okay, so I'm not going to do that, but I can send it out. Now, I can also, after the meeting is over and I've got all my follow-ups recorded, okay, if I want to take a quick look at the minutes, I click here, comes up on the wrong screen, of course, okay, and I've got the meetings fully formatted, ready to go. And you can see here, I've got the attendance at the top. I've got no follow-ups here, no follow-ups here, no follow-ups here, okay, and Each of the sections will have different presenters and then follow-ups in here. Now, I've got all of these minutes now. How do I distribute them? I just click on this button. Okay, I can bring people over and send it out. The moment I click on send, it gets distributed out by email. Okay, so it's incredibly efficient in terms of how I can manage it. If I just want to print it off and hand it to someone, I can export it to Excel, to Word, PDF, whichever. Okay, the settings are you've got, because this is an SQL database, you've got different maintenance options, refresh options. Clicking on, you can also, if you wanted to, if you had to customize it, you've got different designer options here for the report. Okay, I'm going to get into that. And then under the preferences, this is where you put in your connection information. Okay, where you can connect via the API. This is really useful. If you've got customers that are using just the hosted version or APC with web, they can have complete meeting management. Okay, distribute all their meetings, record all their meetings, and connect with a local instance of QuickMeets. Okay, here's where their email settings. Now, this is really important as well, because we have updated this to support open authentication, or OAuth. So you've got standard or what's called basic authentication with SMTP. You've got Office 365 and Gmail. I can tell you this was most of our November, updating all of our programs to support OpenAuth. And then you've got the Link2Events settings, okay, for syncing. And then you've got your defaults. So different things like attach to my record, create a history with activity, blah, 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 all the different default options. Okay, and that's QuickMeets. So what does it cost? It costs $100, roughly like $99.95, okay? One-time cost. There's no recurring costs. And if you've got a Link2Events account with a Team Edition, there's no recurring cost there either, because if you go here and you click on, say, let's go to, let me go to my accounts here, and you go to manage subscriptions, okay, and you go to purchase, okay. Let's say you've got Link to Calendar, and you go to purchase. Now it's going to say 0 for me because I own it, obviously, okay. But if I was going from here, from $60 to the Team Edition at $120, I could pay $60 more for either Link to Calendar, Link2Events, or Link2Forms, I should say, okay, and get those 2 extra features plus the link to shrink feature built into each one of these things, all for just $60 more. Okay, so we're not going to charge that. These can't be purchased separately. You're going to get both options for this at, just for that extra tier upgrade. And then you can sync them between your different computers and have the efficiency that basically I use every single day with this. So let me just stop and see if there's any questions, because we're coming up on the top of the hour. People can either ask them by chat or they can unmute themselves and ask that way. I'm happy if there's no questions either. I think we've covered a fair bit. This is, like I said, you'll notice that a lot of this, with the exception of the Act4Outlook, a lot of it ties back to Link2Events, guys. If you have not had the opportunity to learn more about Link2Events, you're really making it hard to sell new licenses of Act, because obviously Act has the perception that it's everyone's dad's CRM. This makes it look and feel a lot more modern, okay? Our ability to manage quotes and things like that. I used our quoting feature. We basically built our system, our whole business, based on QuoteWorks. In last June, I forced the entire sales team, after me using it exclusively for 3 months, I forced the entire sales team over to Link to Quotes. Is that an indictment on QuoteWorks? Absolutely not. But QuoteWorks has to be customized to suit every single CRM. Link to Quotes only works with Act. Okay, so we're able to go over and have, really robust integration, all online, totally responsive on tablets, on mobile, on anything. Okay, we can create, update countless number of quotes. We can get instant reporting. okay, all online, and it has made us dramatically more productive and efficient. Okay, so here's all of our quotes, all of my quotes here. We can see here the quote dashboard. We can see here, this was our last accepted quote. We can click on here, get instant reporting feedback on what the sales are this month. Okay, we can different templates so that we can send out the same kind of quote over and over again. Here's our product database. Okay, here's our product database, images that we can use, documents that can be attached. All of these different things have made us more efficient. So the point of this is, as much as I love QuoteWorks, if I went to any of my salespeople and I asked them to switch back to QuoteWorks, they wouldn't do it. Okay, because
this is Vic here. I 100% support Ken on that. It took us literally a day to get used to it, and after that, it's just so simple to use. And Ken has told the story about when he was in the lineup. Well, I was in physio yesterday, and I was able to review a quote and send out an edit from it from my phone while I was sitting in my physio appointment. It was fantastic.
Yeah, like I one day, Shannon doesn't ask for many days off, but she did ask for one day off last month to be with family, and she was down there sitting on a dock and sold a license of Q sales from her phone. I did an $800 deal waiting in the drive-through of McDonald's, and I literally sent out the quote before I came to the order window. Put down my phone. By the time I brought the food back to my kids, I had not only an accepted quote, but a paid quote, okay? Because you can accept payments online here, okay? So, oh, perfect, thank you, Fred. It's like you're channeling Sylvia. So Fred Forays asked, is there a French version? So what we are doing, okay, because Fred, if you knew Sylvia here, she's probably lamenting that she didn't beat you there. There's Sylvia, always. We are going to be translating everything. Right now, I believe Link to Calendar is has been translated, but we will be translating all of these products over to French as well. Okay, and we're obviously looking to get much bigger into that market. So it will be translated, all these. I'm anticipating by the end of Q1, we'll have all the products translated. Okay, the one last thing I want to mention, because I keep saying web API, web API, web API, which naturally suggests to this reseller meeting that we are limited to the people that have subscriptions. Well, not the case. As most of you guys know, we also built the Keystroke API, otherwise known as CAPI, and you can use CAPI to set up with pro users or off-plan premium users. So what's the difference between CAPI and Web API? Technically, I'm not going to get into it because I'm not even sure I'm qualified to explain it, but here's the thing that you need to understand. A lot of the people that are self-hosted, they use Act Connect Link. Act Connect Link, we need to understand, is not the Web API. Okay, it is kind of like it's the tunnel to the API. So it creates the IP for you or the host name. It creates the tunnel. You don't have to do any port forwarding with the router. So it's perfect for people that are self-hosted. Pro users really simplify, not pro users, but offline premium users, really simplifies the process. The problem with CAPI is that it doesn't have that tunneling function, so it's more like the web API using IIS or Internet Information Systems, okay? So that product, all it does is publish, just like CAPI. So all CAPI does is publish, and it allows for an API integration into Pro, into off-plan premium customers. The thing is that you have to be mindful that when you're recommending it to people, they've got to have a static IP or they've got to have a DIN DNS, and they've got to be able to configure the port forwarding, okay? If it's for a single pro user, it's not going to be a great fit. But we've used this in Handheld Contact. We've used this. We had a 5 pro deployment at the end of the year, and they were really excited about Link2Events or Link2Forms, and we got them set up really quickly, because while it was a 5-seat deployment, they actually had many more employees, so they had an IT team that was able to set it up really quickly. So this is a really powerful suite of programs. Link to Calendar, most of you guys are familiar with Link2Events, Link2Forms, Link2List. We don't talk about this that much, but it was actually asked by Act for us to build it. So it's an integration to Bright Verify, so you can actually scrub your distribution list right inside of Act at a rate of around 2 to 3 per second. Okay, I'm not going to get into that, but we've got different webinars I'm going to show you. Actually, that's a good point. Let me just go click keystroke here. Scroll down, it's a good point to wrap up on. Scroll down to here where it says keystroke training videos. And you can see all of our keystroke training videos, and you can click on our products and Linktivity, okay, and see the different videos here. But here's all the recordings we've had of these kinds of meetings, okay, as well as down here, and you can see past recordings. So if any of this has triggered any kind of interest in you, then you can go through and preview the different videos available and view them at your leisure, okay? So with that, if there's no other questions, we're about 5 minutes over, so I'll try to be respectful of everyone's time and wrap it up. Thank you very much for joining us. If I don't speak to any of you before the end of the day, then have a great weekend and take care and look forward to seeing you again soon. Take care.